Hi beautiful, welcome to my channel. In today's video we are going to be reviewing the new Anastasia Beverly Hills Primrose Palette. It's been a while since Anastasia released a palette. It's been over a year. I think the last palette was Amrezy and that was January 2020. So wow, it's actually been over a year and a half since the last Anastasia palette release, and she finally has a new one out. It is her holiday palette and I can't wait to show you guys the palette, the swatches, a couple of looks, and tons of comparisons. I basically compared this new palette to every single Anastasia palette in my collection, and I have most of them. So if you're excited for the video, don't forget to please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget, if you're new here, to subscribe before you leave. Let's go ahead and get started. As you can see, I'm super ready for this video. I have makeup on and like contour on, but I didn't put blush on because the palette has two blushes, and of course I don't have anything on my eyes because we will be trying out these eyeshadows. By the way, if you are interested in shopping for this palette, check out the links I'm leaving you down in the description box of this video. Whenever you shop through the links that I leave you down there, you are helping out my channel and I am forever grateful, so please use my links. Let's see what Anastasia has to say about her new palettes. And while I tell you, I will show you the packaging and I will show you the shades. It says, "Holiday magic gets even more enchanting thanks to our luxurious, rose-inspired, all-in-one palette designed to help you create all your day-to-night looks easily and brilliantly. We've packaged this season's most coveted beauty with 12 deliciously buttery shades and the intense color payoff of your dreams, so you can effortlessly go from natural to ultra glam. No makeup artist or party invite required. Each highly pigmented texture, think rich, decadent mattes and multi-dimensional metallics, blends and builds to deliver all the gorgeous effects you've been craving." I always get a kick out of reading the description of makeup palettes and makeup products in general. Let me go ahead and show you guys the swatches. First we have Rose Water, which is a metallic bright opal with multi-dimensional reflects. Then we have the color Honey, which is a matte sandy beige. Sparkling Amber is a metallic rose gold with multi-dimensional reflects. Primrose is a matte dusty rose with multi-dimensional reflects. Mango is a matte coral peach. Then we have the color Peony. It is a sparkling petal pink with gold reflects. Rouge is a matte rose beige brown. Fire Opal is a metallic bright copper with opal reflects. Deep Berry, matte deep berry. Claret, it is a matte rich plum. And then we have the two blushes, which Grapefruit is a matte pink coral and Saddle is a matte terracotta color. Okay, so here are all of the shades swatched as true to color as I can make them. I have the light lowered so that the colors can look as vibrant as they look in real life without being washed out or anything. As you could see, everything has amazing pigmentation. Everything was super buttery and smooth. I have to say some of the shades feel quite a little bit powdery, which means that they're going to blend well, but might also mean that they probably have a little bit of kickback. We'll see. Overall though, absolutely stunning swatches. Beautiful color story. I absolutely loved swatching these colors. They do kick up a little bit of product, so I think we have to tap off our brushes before we use them if we want to avoid fallout underneath our eyes. And they feel pretty much like Anastasia eyeshadow formulas have traditionally felt. Very soft, very buttery. I think they're going to be pretty blendable, and all of the shimmer metallic shades that the palette has swatched beautifully, full of pigment right away, as you guys saw. Now the palette has an increased price, but it's also a different size from previous palettes we've seen. So let me show you. Here is the palette in comparison to the Soft Glam palette. So as you can see, it is a bit of a longer palette. Also maybe like a teeny bit slimmer, but I think it might be just slimmer because the material is a little different. It is a cardboard exterior packaging, and I heard Norvina say in I think an Instagram story or something that this was not going to get as dirty as these fuzzy ones usually get, which I somewhat agree with. But mine is actually already a little bit dirty just from all of these swatches that I did, which admittedly it was a lot of swatching, okay? See, you can see it's like dirty right there, and I even like wiped it off before I showed you. So it's not coming off very easily is my point. So in my opinion, not a huge improvement from the fuzzy ones, although the fuzzy ones also trap dirt. I think the Curly Bible palette and the Jackie Aina palette and maybe some other collaboration palettes they did are the best packaging, because the Jackie Aina palette, you can just wipe it off if it gets dirty, and it's so easily. It has like a faux leather exterior, so I wish they would do something like that for these. This bigger palette retails for $55, which is a price increase from what their regular palettes have traditionally retailed as. These have always been $42 to $45. I believe they are currently $45 on the Anastasia website. And I was very curious about what you get in your palette versus what you're paying. I basically thought we were getting ripped off, so I did some math and I was very surprised. It was a little bit complicated to do the math for this one because they have different formulas and also they have 2 blushes in here. So basically, let me see how I can make this simple. You get 2 eyeshadows in this palette. They each weigh 1.44 grams. The colors are Rose Water and Fire Opal. The rest of the eyeshadow shades are actually pigments, and those weigh 1.22 grams. So you get 8 of those. And then you also, of course, get the 2 blushes, which the blushes are 4.2 grams each. So adding up the weight of every single shade in this palette, you are getting a palette that has 21.04 grams. And if you divide the $55 that you're paying by 21.04, you are paying right around $2.61 per gram. So then I pulled out this palette, and this palette has 14 shades that weigh 0.74 grams each. So it weighs a total of 1036. And if you divide $45 by 1036, you are paying $4.34 per gram. So this is actually more expensive than the new palette is. And then I thought, well, you're getting blushes in here and those are heavy, right? So what if we take off I did the most, okay? What if we take off the weight of the blushes? But if we take off the weight of the blushes, I feel like we should take some money off too. So I basically added up all 10 shades and I divided it by 45. I assumed that each one of these blushes was like $5 and that you're paying around $45 for this palette right here. So all of the eyeshadows and pigments added minus the blushes is a total of 12.64 grams. And if you divide $45, which I'm assuming would kind of be the price for this palette, because that's been the price for these palettes, right? So if you divide $45 by 12.64, then you get 3.50. So you would be paying $3.50 per gram, which is still cheaper than what you paid for the Soft Glam palette. So the point I'm trying to make is that there isn't a price increase on these. You basically are just getting a ton more product for your money. Whether or not you are going to even go through any of these eyeshadows, that is of course up to you. Me personally, I know that I'm never going to go through any of these shades, so I would probably still prefer the smaller size, but it's good to know that this is actually worth the money that I paid for it rather than they just increased $10 for no reason, right? I can see hundreds of people clicking off the video as soon as I started talking about math. If you stayed, now you know that the palette is actually worth it. It's not a ripoff, even though the price is more expensive. And let's go ahead and try these shades. The first thing I want to do is try the blush. So let me grab my blush brush. This is Rephr's number 5 brush, and I'm going to, of course, get the color Grapefruit. I'm going to tap it off because it is powdery. And let's just put it right here on my cheek. Okay, so here's the blush. Just tapping, tapping, tapping. I would say it's a really beautiful, flattering color. I like that it's not a blue-toned pink. It's more on the neutral side. And so if I were to take this palette with me traveling anywhere, I would feel very comfortable skipping packing a blush, because I do think that that blush is flattering on me and I would wear it with like any look basically. So not bad so far. Let's go ahead and try on some of the eyeshadows. Okay, so I'm going to start with this eye. I just have a little bit of like concealer on basically, and I'm going to go into the color Mango right here, and this is a Rephr number 16, and that is going to be my transition shade. Okay, so I'm just blending Mango all over the crease, and I mean, it is going on very smoothly, not a lot of fallout, and I haven't been super careful to tap off my brush. With my Rephr number 1, I'm going into the color Rouge right here, and that's going to be my outer corner color. I have to admit, I was very surprised when I read that this was a holiday palette. I really thought that a palette this kind of universal would be part of their new like collection or something. They seem to be doing a little bit of a rebranding of some sort. With the same brush, I'm going to go into the color Claret, and you can see how pigmented these shades are right away. That was one dip and you get all of that pigment, and they blend very, very easily into one another. So no complaints on the formula. The formula is amazing. Back with my fluffy brush, just mixing everything. I'm going to go in with the color Sparkling Amber and my Rephr number 2, and that's going to be the center color of my eyelid. And then I'm going to do the color Rose Water right here. I never do price comparisons like I did for this palette. My friend Tara Lynn loves to compare different prices of different brands of similar products. But I never do that, and I do find it kind of fascinating. I felt like I had to do price comparisons for this though, because it's like a completely different price and a completely different style of palette that we've seen from Anastasia before. So I hope that was helpful to me. It was kind of an eye-opener, because I really thought that they were just charging more just because, you know? Which again, I rather have the smaller shades regardless, because I'm never going to go through this. But it's good to know that at least I'm paying for something. This is the top of the first look. I'm in love. I'm going to get Claret here and smoke out my lower lash line back and forth, and I'm using the Rephr number 13. And then I'm going to grab Mango right here and smoke it out. I love that makeup wise we are full on in holiday mode. I feel like this week I've been doing nothing but holiday reviews, and I love it. It's keeping me so busy. Okay, so here is the first look. A nice warm smoky eye with the gold eyelid and a little bit of a lighter inner corner color. Let's do a second eye look to continue to try out these shades. I'm going to start with the color Honey up here. I was trying to find my Rephr number 15, but I couldn't. So this one is my Rephr number 27. And I'm using it just as a big fluffy brush to put the transition color in place. This is just like your traditional perfect neutral transition color, and as you can see, it worked wonders. So then I'm going to go into Deep Berry right here, and this is my Rephr number 14 brush, and I'm just going to pack that color in place and start blending it into the crease. I grabbed very little because it's such a dark color and the transition shade is quite light. So if you do a little bit, it's going to be a little easier to just blend it, you know? So I'm just back and forth blending that shade and building it into the crease. And then back with my fluffy brush, making sure that everything looks smooth and blended. I totally forgot to use Primrose. I'm going to use Primrose, which Primrose is one of those matte shades that has a little bit of sparkle thrown in there, and it's kind of random, but you don't really see it on your eyelid. As you can see, I put it on the inner part of my eyelid and blended it into the crease. And I use my Rephr number 14 brush. I'm going to use the number 27 and a little bit of Primrose, and I'm going to put it right here. That would have been the perfect shade to use, and I completely forgot about it. Okay. Fixing it now. And so I'm back with Deep Berry, and I'm going to build it up this time because now I have an in-between shade that I can use so that the colors transition nicely. A little more Deep Berry, and I'm building it up right back here. Back with my fluffy brush, just blend everything. With my Rephr number 28, I'm going to use the color Peony, and I'm going to put that one all over the eyelid, patting it with my small flat brush all over the center of the eyelid. I'm making this little upper edge a little more defined here. And then with that same brush, I want to go into Rose Water, and I'm going to put it right through the center a little bit, right here. I feel like that didn't make much of a difference. No, it didn't make much of a difference. I am going to use Rose Water for my inner corner though. There we go. Blend it in a little bit. Ooh, that looks so pretty. Have I ever mentioned I love burgundies? I'm going to go with Deep Berry and my Rephr number 13, just all the way across my lower lashes. And then with a little bit of honey right here, I'm going to blend that out. A little bit of rose water right here underneath my tear duct area. And so here are the looks. This is look number 1 here, a little bit more warm and golden. And then look number 2, which is more of a neutral burgundy rose gold vibe. Okay, let me go ahead and put on a little bit of waterline eyeliner, mascara, maybe some lashes, I'm not sure. And I'll be right back to show you the final look, and then we'll get into my million comparisons. I thought about it and I went ahead and skipped the lashes. So these are looks 1 and 2. No lashes, just mascara on. Of course, everything I'm wearing on my face will be linked down below. I was only wearing a gloss earlier, but I did put on a lip liner and just filled it in right now. So again, everything is linked in the description box. Anyways, the shades performed beautiful. Even though they have kick up, I actually didn't have too much trouble with fallout at all. I feel like whenever you put the colors on, they immediately stuck to my eyelid really nicely, and I didn't have a lot of color flying all over. I really like the shades. I like the looks that I came up with. This one here is my favorite one, of course. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really expect less from Anastasia. I figured the formula was going to be good. So let's just go ahead and compare this palette to literally every single Anastasia palette in my collection. I have a lot of Anastasia palettes. I feel like this was the first eyeshadow brand that I started collecting, and so we are going to compare this new Primrose palette to a lot of the palettes that you might have at home in order to see whether or not this might be something that you want to add to your collection. Let's start with one of my all-time favorite Anastasia palettes, the Soft Glam palette, and you can see here how they compare next to one another. I'm going to take off the bottom half of my swatches, and we will swatch the other palettes right underneath these shades so we can compare and see whether or not they're similar and how similar they are. Okay, so if you have the Soft Glam palette, these are the shades that are quite similar, and they are all pretty similar except for, I would say, these two, because this is a dual chrome, and then the purples, you can see that the one in the Soft Glam palette is a lot softer. The other 4 shades do look pretty similar. You are missing the shimmer copper shades, the dark purple shade, and of course the 2 shades that are meant to be blushes, which are right here in the palm of my hand. Okay, next let me show you the Primrose palette compared to Modern Renaissance. I feel like there might be a few shades, but not a lot of shades that are similar in these two. Not actually a lot of similarities between the two. I compared everything that was remotely alike, but the only two shades that actually look alike are these and those right there. So only two shades out of the whole palette for those. And here's the Primrose palette next to the Alyssa Edwards palette. I feel like it might be silly comparing these two, but I'm gonna do it anyway. There might be like two shades that look similar. Okay, these swatches keep getting worse and I apologize. I swatched everything that was remotely similar for you, and the only one that actually is similar to one another, I would say, is this like transition color right here, and that's it. Everything else has a different undertone. Okay, moving on to the next one. This is what it looks like next to the Norvina palette. We might get a couple of similar shades in these two. Let's see. Okay, not many. Again, I swatched everything that could possibly be similar, and the only one that I think is actually similar is, once again, the transition shade. And then these two in person from my angle look very similar, but on the camera they look different because, again, this one up here is a duochrome. Okay, here is the Carly Bible palette next to the new Primrose palette. Let's swatch and see if there's any similarities. Okay, here are the swatches for the Carly Bible palette. Again, the transition shade, I feel like in most of them look pretty similar. And in this one, I actually found a dupe for the blush shade. It's the color Cindy from the Carly palette. And I believe those are the closest ones. Everything else has a slight difference in texture and shine, in duochromeness. So yeah, those two shades, and then the other three that look kind of similar. Does anyone remember the Prism palette? I feel like this one didn't do very well. Here's the side-by-side comparison. And then, as different as they look, I actually found 4 shades that look kind of similar to one another. I was most surprised to finally find a copper shimmer shade that kind of looks like this one. I hadn't found that in any palette so far. Okay, so then we have the Amrezy palette right here. This was actually the last palette release that they had before the Primrose palette. It's been a while, and in this one I actually found quite a few shades that look pretty similar, and here they are, 7 shades total. Actually 6, because this shimmer is the same as this shimmer. I just felt like it kind of could look like a dupe for this one, and it also kind of can look like a dupe for this one. I actually think it's a better dupe for Peony from the Primrose palette than for Rose Water. So take a look right here. 6 similar shades in that one. You don't get the peachy transition shade or the copper shade or the dark burgundy shade. You also don't get any of the blush shades that come in the other one, or eyeshadows that look similar to those. Okay, here it is next to the infamous Subculture palette. And I actually found a couple of shades that might be similar in these two, so let me show you. In the pan, these two actually look pretty similar, but the Subculture one is so creamy, it swatches a lot darker. These two have a similar-ish undertone, and then the same thing with these. Not an exact dupe for any, but these shades actually look closer than I even thought they would. Just 3 more to go. Here's the Riviera palette next to the Primrose palette. I really didn't think any shades were similar, but I swatched them and I found 2. Just these 2 down here, one similar to the blush shade, and this one's actually more brown and this one's more burgundy, but they do have a similar kind of depth, and the undertone is what varies a little bit. Just 2. Okay, so here we have Miss Jackie Aina's palette next to the new Primrose palette. There's also a few shades in here that are similar. And here they are. I don't think any of these is an exact dupe, but very similar vibes, I would say. I think this might be the first time we have a color similar to this one. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah. These are it right here. 1 more palette to go. And that is, of course, the Sultry palette right here. I see maybe a couple of similarities between these two. Let's find out. Okay, just kidding. There's like 1 shade. This doesn't look similar, and neither one of these looks similar to that. So we have maybe these two, which are also just like not even similar. So actually that was the most different palette because it's pretty cool toned, and this new Primrose one is more neutral to warm, I would say. That was a lot of work, and I was really surprised to see that even though I could find 3 to 4 shades in each palette on average, that were similar to shades in the new palette, most of the palettes truly have clear differences to this new Primrose palette right here. Now, if you were to be crazy and have them all like I do, then you really don't need this one, because I feel like for the most part I was able to find shades that looked pretty similar to every single one of these when I swatched all of the palettes. Maybe not Primrose. I feel like Primrose is quite special. There wasn't a purple quite like that one, but for the most part, similar enough. I mean, this is not a color story that we haven't seen before. I feel like we probably have a lot of colors similar to these, not only on the palettes from Anastasia that I showed you, but in other palettes in our collection. With that said, I know that not everybody has a large collection of palettes, so this might be your first Anastasia palette ever, or you might just have a couple and you want to add this one to your collection. And I do think that it is a beautiful, beautiful color story. As far as the shades being larger and it having less eyeshadows in it, plus the 2 blushes, I personally don't love that. I do like the 14 shadow palettes because it gives me even more eyeshadow options. But like I said before, I could take this palette traveling with me somewhere and completely skip taking a blush, because the blush that comes in this palette is beautiful, is very flattering. I did really like it. And at one point I was thinking maybe I could use Saddle as a bronzer, but it is quite warm, so I'm not going to try to do that. I'm sure that Saddle is a beautiful blush for darker complexions than mine, and if you're light or fair like me and you want to get use out of it, you can definitely use this one as eyeshadow, of course, and I'm sure that you can come up with really beautiful looks with it. So in this case, whether this new Anastasia Primrose palette is worth it or not, I'm going to say is up to you. I broke down the prices, I showed you the swatches, and I literally compared it to every single Anastasia palette I own. So let me know if you think this palette is worth it down in the comment section, if you are going for it, or maybe when it goes on sale you might want to go for it. I'm dying to see what you guys have to say. I do think that it is a cute palette and I'm not mad that I got it, but I would rather the smaller pan size with the 14 shades for the $45 that we're used to, rather than this $55 palette format. So I think that is all I have for you today. Don't forget to please give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here, and I hope to see you back in the next video. Bye!